Hello everyone, welcome to the Missile Productions channel. My name is Steven Yassel, and today we are on part 17 of the Coral Castle Deep Dive series. We will continue reading from The Energy Grid by Bruce L. Cathie. We will be covering 2 short chapters today, but really packed with some very cool information. So we will get started with that shortly. I will be bringing in here our slideshow, and I'll get some music started, and we will begin. So I hope you're all having a great day. I uploaded a few of the shows from last week, including this Coral Castle deep dive. So last week's show is re-uploaded as a regular video. And I'm doing this to get the most reach possible, because not all of you are getting my notifications, which is unfortunate. We really don't understand what's happening with all of that. And I'm not sure how to solve it. So my best advice for all of you watching is to please like the videos that you're watching. Please comment on the videos, especially after the videos are finished and posted. And also, please subscribe to my channel. Now, I've said this on my other shows, and I'm going to say it again here. There are now memberships available for this channel. So, that's a way of showing support for what I put together here for all of you every week. And the benefit of being a member will be to get exclusive videos before everyone else, along with exclusive videos that aren't available on the channel for free to everyone. You'll also have emojis to use in the chat. There's custom emojis right now. We got 4 of them, all related to the deep dive series that we are currently running. And yeah, if you guys could show me some love over there, I'd appreciate it. That's all I ask. All right. So today, we are covering Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. But we're starting here with Chapter 8. Which this is the Earth's magnetic field. I'm just adjusting the volumes here. Okay. So now that's all squared away. Let's begin. Chapter 8. The Earth's Magnetic Field. The first book that I ever read on the subject of unidentified flying objects was called Behind the Flying Saucers by Frank Scully, an American reporter. This was in the early 1950s, and the factual information contained in it impressed me very much. Some years ago, I lent my prized copy to someone and never received it back. The fate of many books in the early years of my research. Last week, I was lucky enough to obtain a small paperback copy from a very good friend in the United States. On the second reading, I came across some information which makes sense now that I have a number of years of research with which to correlate the data. According to Scully, a group of American scientists carried out a crash program during the Second World War years to study magnetism and all the allied branches of science. Most of the knowledge gained has never been made public, and it appears that this comparatively small group is now so far advanced in the field of electromagnetism that they could well apply the knowledge in the construction of anti-gravity type vehicles. Scully also states that the destructive forces of electromagnetism have been mastered in the field of weaponry. Hey Jay Wild, try out some of the new emojis that you have as a member. There's one in there that's of Ed Leedskalnin. Let me see that one in the chat if you figure out how to access that. Because I'm not sure. Let me see real quick here if I have it. Yeah. Try that one. And Jay, you'll be getting some exclusive content very soon. And I appreciate your support here. It really means a lot to me. Before we continue on reading, I do want to point out that I did make a post yesterday on the channel explaining the memberships and why I'm doing them. And long story short, video production is my career. So I do this as a passion and for full-time work. And over the past several years, it's been very difficult to keep it full-time. Times have changed, and over the past 5 years, not a lot of places ended up operating the same way they used to back in 2019. So a lot of contacts drifted away. A lot of work opportunity drifted away. So if I could do this full-time here on YouTube for all of you, that'd be a dream come true. So while others may think that it's selfish or it might be too much money, it's not about all of that. It's about building a community that supports one another. If you could pay for a Netflix account, if you could go out to the store and purchase food and drink, like coffee from Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, which I don't like using those analogies, but I think you get my drift here. I'm asking for $10 a month or $20 a month. And Jay with the super chat of $10. Thank you. This is what it's all about, man. I purchase these books. I don't go to the library and check them out to just read them on here. I own these books because of the funds that I receive. So if I get funds like Jay just did here, thank you again, Jay, then I'll have more opportunities to dig into other books and do other deep dive series that are related to these topics. And some of these books that I'm looking at, some of them are really expensive. Some of them are going to be up in the like $80 to $100 range. And there's some people where they say that's not too expensive. But if you're planning to buy like 10 of those books, it gets a little steep. I really appreciate it, Jay. And you figured out the emojis. Excellent. So here's the other thing on emojis, and then we'll get back to reading this. But the more members we get, the more custom emojis I can make for the channel. So YouTube has a tier process where we unlock more opportunities for custom emojis. And I used to think nothing of it before. But it's fun for all of you watching to interact and use those in the chats. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you, Jay. You've been here for quite a while and you've shown your support several times. I really do appreciate that. You actually helped me get a payout from Google this year. So you will not be forgotten here. And I'm going to deliver on my word. And I will make you that Smith video that you've been requesting. Because it's something that I used to think, oh, nobody would want to see that. Or, oh, I'll only get 10 views on the channel with it. And then it'll just fade into obscurity. But now, after the past several months of me honing my skills again, because that's what you always need to do when You're practicing skills, but also mastering skills. You produce better content over time. So I'm holding myself to a higher standard of producing premium videos for those that are willing to pay for them. It's no different than going to a movie theater, in my opinion. That's my perspective on it. But also, it's access to information. You could watch 100 videos on different obscure taboo topics from free channels, but will the production quality improve over time? It's a toss-up. Sometimes people are comfortable with keeping on producing the same content over and over. We just added a cloud background here, not a computer-generated image of circles. So I'm trying to move away from that and give a more interactive presentation here. So all of that's part of this decision in making memberships available on the channel. And I really do see it succeeding in time. But I know there's people that say they don't want to pay for it. And that's fine. But you'll just not get everything here. The Coral Castle series will always remain free. The only thing that I may do in the future is release these live streams to the members first, and then make it public at a later date. But as of now, everything I'm producing on this channel, I'm continuing to up the quality on the presentations, and I'm making it more interesting for new viewers and those of you that have been here along for the ride with me. I had to make a big pivot here with the way I did interviews. And there's going to be times in life where your perspective on the world changes. And it doesn't mean that your morals change. But you just get enlightened to new information and you have to make a move. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, Jay says... I'm not going to say it. He's not happy with YouTube, though. But he says, I love you and your mission. And Jay also says, I can't wait to see the Smith vid. Yes, the Smith video, I think, is going to be excellent. Because I've spent a lot of time thinking about that concept of that character. Okay, let's get back to reading. I just wanted to share that, though. Everything helps. And if you can't become a member, anyone out there, at least give me a like. That's free. Drop me a comment below. That's free. Watching this stream is free. Share the stream. If you like this, you have a friend or two that enjoys this topic, share it to them. See what they think. They might not even watch it, but at least you tried showing them. All of that helps with growing this channel. Alright, let's continue with the reading here. According to Scully, a group of American scientists carried out a crash program during the Second World War years to study magnetism and all the allied branches of science. Most of the knowledge gained has never been made public, and it appears that this comparatively small group is now so far advanced in the field of electromagnetism that they could well apply the knowledge in the construction of anti-gravity type vehicles. Scully also states that the destructive forces of electromagnetism have been mastered in the field of weaponry. And this song is the intro music to the Bermuda Triangle series on Thursdays. I didn't plan it this way, but that's another deep dive for all you to check out if you haven't yet. It was in his comments on the magnetic fields of the Earth that interested me most. Evidently, a device called a magnetron was invented by a physicist by the name of Albert Wallace Hull, who was born in April 1880. This invention was brought to the fore in 1928 when it was discovered that magnetrons with split anodes can generate very high frequencies. Quoting Scully, "Since then, the magnetron has had many important applications. It depends on the fact that electrons can be ordered in their path by a magnet. In ordinary electron tubes, the flow of electrons from the filaments to the plate is regulated by the charge on the grid. In the magnetron, there is no grid, but the tube is in a magnetic field. As the intensity of the field increases, there comes a stage at which the electrons are curled back into the filament and never reach the plate. At this critical point, a slight change in the field produces a large change in the current carried by the tube. The magnetron is especially valuable for producing high-frequency oscillations used for generating ultra-short waves. The magnetron is a diode or thermionic tube having a strange axial cathode surrounded by a cylindrical anode. Its use as a magnetic prospecting instrument derives from the fact that in the presence of a magnetic field, the electrons do not travel regularly from the cathode to the anode. Instead, they spiral around the cathode in circular paths, and after a critical magnetic field intensity is reached, the electrons will return to the cathode without reaching the anode. At this field strength, the plate current will drop abruptly. The procedure in operating the instrument consists in decreasing the plate voltage on the diode until the voltage is reached at which the current falls off rapidly. The plate voltage at which this occurs is related to the critical field strength H by the relation H. 6/7200 VR, where R is the radius of the node. And I will show you how that's written out here. In parentheses, this says, "This equation is interesting when related to my own research because the value of 6 divided slash 7200 is equal to 0.0083333. The square of this number is 0.000000694444, or the harmonic of the reciprocal of the speed of light." In practice, a compensation procedure is used wherein the field to be measured is nullified by a known field produced by a coil arrangement. The magnetron is affected by the component of the Earth's field, which is parallel to its axis. The instrument, theoretically, may be used to measure any components of the Earth's field by suitable orientation. The sensitivity of the tube may be increased through regeneration by passing the plate current through an additional solenoid. Interesting experimental results have been obtained by using magnetic alloy field pieces to increase the affected magnetic field. The Earth being simply a huge magnet, a dynamo, wound with magnetic lines of force as its coils, telescopically counted to be 1257 to the square centimeter in one direction and 1850 to the square centimeter in the other direction, otherwise known as eddy currents, indicates that natural law has placed these lines as close together as the hairs on one's head. And yet they never touch or cross each other, if let alone. If done so by accident, the catastrophe would spread like a searchlight and destroy everything in its path. Again, in parentheses, I agree with this statement up to a point, as I believe that matter is actually produced by the crossing of these lines of force. End parentheses. An original error of, say, a foot at its source would burn everything in its path up to 20 miles and 1.5 miles wide in 10,000ths of a second. If left to encircle the world, the original flash would have banded the globe 10 times in 1 second. Fortunately, as a weapon of defense, this destructive force has been mastered, and that is in all capital letters. That was along with the eddy current portion. But you see there? And again, the eddy current at the top here, this one. The spectroscope shows that there is an enormous magnetic field around the sun, and it is the present conclusion of the best minds that magnetic lines of force from the sun envelope this earth and extend to the moon. I believe that word is envelop. My bad. Let's reread that. The spectroscope shows that there is an enormous magnetic field around the sun, and it is the present conclusion of the best minds that magnetic lines of force from the sun envelop this earth and extend to the moon. And this next part is in all capital letters again. That everything, no matter what its form on this planet, exists by reason of magnetic lines of force. This I agree with, according to my own research. We are taught in our schools and universities that the magnetic field passes through one magnetic pole, then through the body, and out the other magnetic pole. I disagree with this explanation. I believe that the magnetic lines of force enter the body at the poles, then carry out a looped path through the body before passing out the opposite poles. It could be one loop, but that's the concept he's explaining here. As pointed out by Scully, the lines of force move in both directions. The flow is not in one pole and out the other, but in both poles and out both poles, although the field intensity both ways is unbalanced. If we can visualize one line of force so that we can trace out its path, we can form an analogy by imagining it to be similar to a piece of string. First of all, we make a loop in the piece of the string. Now imagine it being fed through a fixed position, with the loop remaining stationary relative to a fixed point. With the length of string as the axis, we can now make the loop revolve in a path which is at 90 degrees to the movement of the string. The loop, in fact, would trace out a spherical shaped form in space. The lines of force of the magnetic field would form a lattice or grid pattern due to the spin of the planetary body. A good analogy would be an ordinary machine-wound ball of string. The length of string has taken on the form of a ball, and at the same time has formed a crisscross pattern. If we again visualize this as a physical body being formed in space, then we can now imagine a small vortex being created at all the trillions of points where the lines of force cross each other in the lattice pattern. Each vortex would manifest as an atomic structure and create within itself what we term a gravitational field. The gravitational field, in other words, is nothing more than the effect of relative motion in space. Matter is drawn towards a gravitational field, just as a piece of wood floating on water is drawn towards a whirlpool. The gravitational fields created by the vortexual action of every atom would combine to form the field of the completed planetary body. The world grid that I speak of is the natural grid that is formed by the lattice pattern of the interlocking lines of force. The density of the Earth's magnetic field is the most important piece of information in Scully's book. The unbalanced field of 1257 lines or 1,257 lines of force per square centimeter in one direction and 1,850 in the other does not tell us very much in itself. But we use the information to calculate the field strength over an area which has harmonic relationship with the unified fields of space. And if the basic information is correct, we should find some mathematical values of great importance. At the time of my earlier publications, I was not aware of the extreme importance of the values at that stage of accuracy. I was close enough to see how they fitted into the equations, but a further fine-tuning was necessary to reveal the knowledge locked within these two simple numbers. The basic unit for harmonic calculation is the geodetic inch, or 1/72,000th of a minute of arc. 1 minute of arc being 6,000 geodetic feet. If we take the values of 1,257 and 1,850 lines of force per square centimeter and calculate the field strengths for 1 square geodetic inch, the field density is 8,326.71764 and 12,255.8 0.08864 lines of force, respectively. The fields being in opposition to each other. The combined field density is equal to 20,581.80628. Allowing for very slight variations in the conversion factors, the difference in field strengths. 12,255.08864 minus 8,326.71764 is equal to 3,928.371. We could say that the resultant field density one way is equivalent to field A minus field B, or 3,928.371 lines of force. This value I found to be the harmonic reciprocal of the grid coordinate 2,545.584412. The combined field strength of 20,581.80628 lines of force can be associated with the communication harmonic 169,444 as follows. Allowing for the matter-antimatter cycle, we double the value. 20,581.80628 times 2 equals 41,163.612. That number squared equals the 169,444 harmonic. The harmonic 411,63612 also has a direct relationship with the geometric construction of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. This is what Ed Leedskalnin claims he understood, without saying exactly what he understood about it. The King's Chamber, in particular, is built according to this value. It appears that the chamber could act in some way as a cavity resonator, perhaps for communication. This is discussed in later works. And that's the end of Chapter 8. So we're getting closer and closer to the answers that we've been looking for here. The question of how Ed built Coral Castle. So now we're moving straight into Chapter 9, right here, right now, titled Pythagoras and the Grid. So this will be a little more math, but I think it's easy enough to follow. So let's continue on here. Chapter 9, Pythagoras and the Grid. After publishing my discovery of the world grid system, I soon came up against opposition from the academic world of the universities. Much derisive comment was made at various meetings, and the main objection appeared to be that I had used angular measurement of degrees and minutes of arc upon which to base my values of universal measurement. It was also argued that a harmonic value to base 10 was not valid as a universal multiple, as any other number such as 12 could be employed just as effectively if my theories were correct. At the time, I could only counter these attacks on my work by pointing out the fact that I had endeavored to make use of other values in my calculations for this very reason. I had found through trial and error that only angular measure in degrees and minutes of arc and multiples to base 10 could be utilized to set up a system of universal harmonics. I found that this method was the only possible way to measure the harmonic relationship between light and matter, regardless of the size of the body in question, be it an atom or a mass the size of Jupiter. I also suggested that the critics should set up a system such as mine by using other basic values and harmonic equivalents if they were so sure of their ground, and to my knowledge this has never been accomplished with any success. The academics maintained that the division of a circle into degrees and minutes of arc was a random decision made by mathematicians in historical times, and was therefore a purely arbitrary method of measure. The division, according to them, could just as well have been into any number of equal parts, depending on the whim of the mathematical body which set the standard. This naturally would make all my work completely valueless. I continued to maintain that the division of the circle must have been made due to considerations of a geometric nature, coupled with that of natural law. All the work I had done to date indicated to me that the mathematicians of old had a knowledge of the universe which we are only once again beginning to understand. The final solution to this argument could be overcome only by the discovery of a geometric connection between the harmonics of light and the harmonics inherent in the division of a circle. As I had based my light values on minute of arc measure, there must be some type of geometric arrangement which would tie them together. This was always in the back of my mind during the reading of many research books. And finally, I came across something which I believe will answer the critics. The friend who came to my rescue was none other than Pythagoras himself, a man of great stature and forceful personality who lived in the 6th century BC. He traveled extensively to enlarge his mathematical knowledge and was said to have gained much information from the priests of Zoroaster. I'll spell that out. Zoroaster. Who have gained much information, or who had in their possession the mathematical lore of the Mesopotamians. He founded a semi-religious or mystical cult based on mathematics around about 540 BC in the township of Crotona, spelled Crotona, in southern Italy. He taught his disciples to worship numbers, the main idea being that number is the essence of all things, and is the metaphysical principle of rational order in the universe. He discovered the mathematical relationships of the musical scale, and the connection of musical harmony and whole numbers. He firmly believed that all harmony in things of nature can be expressed in whole number relationships. Even the planets in their orbits, according to him, moved in harmonious relationship, one to the other, producing the so-called, quote, music of the spheres, end quote. The Pythagoreans explained the elements as built up of geometrical figures. One of the most interesting of these was the dodecahedron. That particular figure has locked within it a great deal of information on the geometrical nature of the universe. My first introduction to Pythagoras, however, was in the discovery that the humble right-handed triangle, or right-angled triangle, with sides to the ratio of 3, 4, and 5, was the key to the relationship of the speed of light to the circle. The clue to this was found on page 62 in John Mitchell's book, The City of Revelation. You see that? How information just pops up to these researchers? All different parts of books, and then you find these nuggets in these books. And that's kind of what we're doing here, is making notes of things that stand out, and also of things that we haven't really heard of in other realms of this research. And I intend to be very thorough about this, because even though this is a very simple question, objectively, how did Ed build Coral Castle? The answer seems to be very difficult to achieve. And I like a challenge. So in John Mitchell's book, The City of Revelation, he was discussing sacred numbers and referring to the problem of squaring the circle. The suggestion was that the relative dimensions of the Earth and the Moon indicated an answer, and that the same source provided the sacred numbers of the canon. He demonstrated that if the circles of the Earth and the Moon are placed tangentially to each other and produced in their correct proportions, then each framed within a square, the geometric figure thus produced successfully squares the circle. With an Earth diameter of 7,920 miles and that of the Moon 2,160 miles, the perimeters of the two squares are respectively 31,680 miles and 8,640 miles. The radii of Earth, 3,690, and the Moon, 1,080, in combination amount to 5,040 miles. This, according to Plato, is a mystical number. It turns out that the circumference of a circle struck from the center of the Earth and passing through the center of the Moon would very closely measure 31,680 miles, which is also equivalent to the perimeter of the square containing the Earth. Mitchell then went on to state that if the outer corner of the square containing the Moon is joined to the corresponding corner of the square containing the Earth, the triangle thus formed has sides of 2,160, 2,880, and 3,600 miles. If divided by their highest common factor, 720, these numbers become 3, 4, and 5. He follows on to say that, quote, confronted with these facts, such as these, it is scarcely possible to avoid the conclusion, orthodox in every age but the present, that the cosmic canon inherent in the solar system, as in every other department of nature, was revealed to men, not invented by them. Meaning this was always here. It was brought to our attention. It was obvious to me that from these facts, another extremely interesting conclusion could be arrived at. The various geometric relationships of the 3, 4, 5 triangle are many and varied, as can be seen by a glance through any standard geometry book. But the most important of all cannot be found in any ordinary publication. As demonstrated in other sections of my work, the pure harmonic of the speed of light is 144. If we divide this by 2 to find the harmonic of 1/2 cycle, or half wave, the answer is 72. If we now apply this to the Pythagoras right-angled 3, 4, 5 triangle and extend each side in this ratio, then the figure will now have sides of 216, 288, and 360 units. The harmonic proportions thus derived are equal to 216 equals 21,600 equals minutes of arc in a circle. 360 equals 360 equals degrees in a circle. 288 equals 144 times 2 equals 2c, where c equals the speed of light. It appears from this that the harmonic of light has a very definite relationship with the geometry of a circle, and that the early mathematicians were fully aware of the fact. If a triangle in this proportion is laid out in minutes of arc upon the surface of a sphere, then the combined angles formed by the corners of the triangle and the center of the sphere are 216, 360 minutes, 288, and all of those added together is 864 minutes, which equals 14.4 degrees. Again, this creates a harmonic and sympathetic resonance with the light factor of 144. Can the critics still deny that the geometry of matter is directly related to the harmonic interweaving of light itself? There is no substance in the absolute sense. We live in a reality of unreality. All is an illusion, and the stuff that dreams are made of. Our physical world is nothing more than a resonating ball of light and shade. And that completes Chapter 9. So, we made it under an hour. I'm so glad that you were all here to join me today. Thank you again, Jay, for that generous super chat. Jay's also a member of the channel now. He's the first member. So, all great things start somewhere. Next week, we will be reading Chapter 10, The Maps of the Ancients. We'll be here every Tuesday for the rest of the month, and then I'll be taking a week or two hiatus. Won't be too too long, I'll be back, and there will also be re-uploads happening during that time, I believe. So we'll read chapters 10 and 11 for next time. Chapter 11 being Russians and Germans discover a world grid system. And just for a sneak peek, we'll be talking about this. We're getting into the ley lines now, people. It's exactly what I wanted to talk about with all this. But you see, we're getting the pulp of this information. We're getting them all. We're getting it all. We're digging in, concentrating our focus on the subject material at hand, and we're making excellent progress. We're almost halfway through the book. And we'll keep going at this pace, too. Maybe, let's see here. Part 12. Or chapter 12, rather. That's a fairly long chapter. So we'll keep the chapters 10 and 11 for next week. But yeah, everyone, that will be it for today. I really thank you again for being here. And until the next one, class dismissed.